presentation for this one. As we are approaching towards some of the things, I think uh, sir have already been talked. We'll discuss a little bit about that. So it's about the different factors associated with the road crashes. Okay, I think over this 1.5 days, you get an idea that driving behavior is the primary factors, right? So if we understand, like from this 1.5 days discussion, what you can understand is that crash is a complex process. It have a various factors that are linked together in an accident, right? And these causal factors or the factors that leads to crash can be broadly categorized into 3 categories. Okay? So first one is the driver or the human element. So in driving behavior, what do you think will be? What are the factors that can be considered as a driving factor or human behavior factor? Skill of the driver, okay. What else? Reaction time, okay. Vision. Basically reaction, right? PIV is basically talking about the reaction.
Health condition.
Health condition. All right. All right. What else? Driver distraction. State of mind of the driver. Psychological. Good. So even the physical factors, if we see, we can actually broadly categorize them into. So physical factors like illness, you are saying about the vision, all these are the physical factors, right? If you are having a vision disorder, or someone might have sleep disorder, all those aspects will become under the physical category, right? Then next is the psychological factors. Some people have more adventurous maybe compared to some other driver, So if you say the aggressiveness of driving, all those will come under the psychological factors, right? And then there are cognitive one, distractions that you mentioned, So and so use of cell phone, all others will come under that. So next will be the roadway elements, right? The next broader category of factors, if we look, those are the roadway or road elements. So what are the factors that might come under this, that might be associated with accident? Geometrical design, yes. Roadway maintenance, very good. Infrastructure, poor infrastructure, you can say. Road markings, good.
Not proper signal.
Yeah, yes.
Not proper signal.
Okay, bad signal designs maybe. From the back, what else?
Any construction or work zone.
Environment related factors such as slippery roads.
Yeah. Could you repeat this again?
Yeah, just I'm saying that some environment related factors, just like slippery roads
Okay,
and
yeah. Environmental factors.
dust over the road. Yeah, these could be.
Okay, fog, rain, all those environmental factors. But environmental factors will come in a different category. It will not be part of roadway.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, anyone from online would like to add to this discussion? Speed, will not be a roadway characteristic. It's basically how driver wanted to drive, right? Driver, if he is pursuing to, he choose to drive. Of course, speed you can categorize into types of road, like based on mobility, like expressway, multi-lane roads. These are the different features, but speed itself will not be a roadway factor. Geometric consistency. So, if your geometry is changing too much, right? And the last part is the vehicle related factors. So, what things will come under this?
So not having a proper braking.
Yeah, braking might be maintenance issue. Emissions, okay. Weight of the vehicle, but it is something related to accident. So weight, okay, maybe heavy vehicle you wanted to categorize. Vehicle safety features, good. Vehicle dimension, okay, types of vehicle. Customization, yes.
Poor electrical functioning of the vehicle, like lights are not working proper.
Yes, maintenance issue, right? Yeah. Maintenance of the overall. So we can see that all these difference come under mostly these three broader categories. Okay. Now, if we see the contribution of percentage contribution of these different factors, so this is a study done in US in 2018, and the study was done with approximately 5,500 data. So pre-crash data they have looked into, and what they found that the crash causation where driving behavior is involved is significantly like have a almost like 94% of percentage of the case. And similarly with roadway and vehicle you can see relatively very small percentage, right? That means driving behavior is actually guiding all the most of this accident. But are they independent? Can driving behavior, let alone, most of the time it can do, but along with the driving behavior there might be an interaction of more parameters, right? Or among there might be multiple driving behaviors that might exist together that can actually lead up to that particular accident, right? So, if we compare this scenario, let us see here these data sets are they are using pre-crash data. That means the time just prior to an accident. So, they are actually able to quantify it better, right? It is very difficult to have that behavior, capturing that behavior together just just before the crash, like few, let us say 10-20 seconds prior to the accident, what kind of behavior they have done, but they have that kind of data, so they are able to integrate this. So, now if we from the accident reports that MORT publish, if we see what are the behavior that exist in our case, we can see that in India overspeeding is the primary contributor. You can see around 70% of the cases after maybe crash when the report is written, overspeeding found to be a primary factor. And it is followed by the other one, driving on the wrong side, okay? Driving on the wrong side. Now, I think in urban area this driving under influence of alcohol, influence of drugs, that is increasing. Then mobile phone use while driving, jumping the red lights, driving without valid license, also a very significant chunk of drivers you can find without a proper driving license. I think professor also mentioned in the previous class. Okay. So, along with that, some other aspects of driving behavior is the non-use of safety devices. Okay. So, that actually changed the severity of the accident. So, non-use of helmet, non-use of seat belt, that actually increasing the severity. So, severity, as professor also mentioned, the Kapko scale, right, or any severity, if you can say kill, injury, severe injury, PDO. So, the severity will rise if this is not been used. Okay. Then if we look into the road environment characteristics, so the data showed that bad roads actually accounted a significant portion of the accident. So, what bad road condition actually suggest? So, basically having potholes, slippery roads, or many a times, if shoulder is not there or roadway shoulder is not properly maintained, or might not be there, abrupt reduction in the shoulder. Then poor road design, that is also one of the factor that is associated here, and that include sharp curves, narrow bridges, and steep gradient. Okay. Then one of the very other primary factor is inadequation in lighting. Most of the roads, if you see, are dark. That causes a lot of accidents, especially nighttime driving. If you go through the reports of MORT, you can see how significant is the nighttime crashes. Okay. Compared to the percentage of drivers that is driving, if you compare the number of vehicles that exist in the road and corresponding percentage of accident that happen during daytime, and if you compare that with the percentage of vehicles that travel during night and the associated percentage of accident, you can see that there is a significant mismatch between these two. So, if we look into the vehicle conditions that we discussed, the causality related to vehicle, what we find that vehicle condition, especially brake failure, tire burst, and steering failure, these three factors are associated with the significant, is found to be a significant cause associated with the vehicle condition. Okay. And among the vehicles, if you see two-wheelers, if you see as considered majority, around 44% of the accidents are associated with two-wheelers, which is a vulnerable road users, followed by car, trucks, and buses. Okay. So, just a summary, if you see, if you can see that errors related to driving behavior or human error, road environment, vehicular condition, or other factor, you can see that for human error, overspeeding, drunk driving, use of cell phone, or use of not using safety device are the primary constituent of this one. Okay. For road environment, you can see potholes, slippery roads, and all. Okay. So, now from both scenario, what you can see that driving behavior is a significant factors. So, we talked about different types of data, professor talked about this. So, is it easier to understand driving behavior? Is it easier to capture driving behavior? Yes, no? No? So, from the, let us say, accident data crash report data we are collecting. So, will it be able to understand the driving behavior from that? Yes or no? Or some part may not. Some of the thing we can definitely understand. If it's over speeding, let's say, we'll be able to know, right? But as you know, accidents have multiple factors. What if that driver was maybe feeling sleepy? At the same time, he was looking into something else, and is over speeding. All this lead into crash, right? So basically, what it can be done is certain, as you say, crash process is multiple number of factors are involved together, So let alone the crash report. My crash report is can give you better idea, can give you some idea, but there might be other methods are also required that can capture those behavior, right? So this is about the interaction of different parameters. So this is from one of the study that done by Rummer. So here you can see that so there is a overlap you can see between roadway factors or driving behaviors and vehicular factors. Also there will be an interaction among the factors in the driving behavior as well. Okay. So multiple number of driving factors might actually lead to an accident. Okay. So for that, I think professor going to add emerging technologies later, but I will add some part of this one in this this lecture. So some of the way we can calculate is if we include lot of sensors in the vehicle, and same thing actually happening to the new generation vehicles also. New generation vehicles have lot of sensors. Now radar sensor, lidar sensors, cameras, all are there. So if we can use those information, basically we can have a better idea about the driving behavior. Okay. So for that, there is a study that conducted in US, which is called a naturalistic driving study. Okay. So what basically naturalistic study did is they instrumented the vehicle with lot many cameras and different sensors together, and then they let it run for months, and then they collected different information out of that. So now you may think, like, if we put this many sensors together, how the driver will feel about it, right? If you feel like if you are constantly maybe monitored with cameras, and you know that your all movements are being captured, right, with lot of sensors. So how do you feel about that one? You might think about that, right? So that's why these experiments are being conducted for a longer time, so that over the period of time you are getting used to with the system. Maybe your reactions will be exactly how you used to react without this sensor. Then only we can get the real behavior, right? If let's say your car is without any of these sensors, without any of these systems, then your reaction during that will actually somehow replicable to, we can replicate if it is actually run for a longer duration. So what kind of data actually collected? There are a lot many data collected and during this kind of study, and so it have the data which is related to the driver. you know. So driver, it's about the demographic questions, about the age, about their professions, about their educations, along with the driving history and driving knowledge. Along with that, they also collected data related to their health conditions, sleep habits, all those data are collected. And then vehicle related informations are collected separately, you know, where vehicle make, model, what kind of safety system they have, all those aspects collected in a different data. And then continuous data set. So because it is instrumented with lot of sensors and cameras, so during the period of experiment, let's say for the month, however the 3-4 months it is done, so it is constantly being recorded, all the speed trajectory of the vehicles. And then after that, after collecting all this data, it's a large data of 5 petabytes, and then they reduce the data based on critical events. So you may think how these critical events are identified, right? So then they applied some certain logic based on their actions, driver's action, and then they reduce the data to maybe some of the very small portion of accidents, very small portion of near accidents, and other risky behaviors, you know. So one of the logic of doing this is, I think professor also mentioned in one of his previous class about the hierarchy of this risky event. So this is one of the study did predecessor to this one, which is called a 100-car study. There, what they found based on that experiment is, so the severity of event, if reduced, the number increases, and it kind of like a pyramid structure, where at the top more severe events will be there, followed by the lesser severe events. Okay. So crashes are the highest severity of event, right? That will be followed by the near crashes, where almost it missed, you know, and then followed by the critical events, which is actually deviation from the normal driving. So some sort of risk is associated with this kind of driving. Okay. So why this information is needed? So let's say this study is done for, we cannot at this point of time, our all drivers are not equipped with this sensors and instrument, right? No? So we need to conduct this experiment in a very small population, right? So let's say here it done for 100 vehicles. So for 100 vehicle event, if we try to do experiment for, let's say, 4 months or 5 months, will we be able to get the number of accidents? We might get very few, right? So similar thing you can say, like if you compare the number of miles or number of kilometers a driver travel, you know, let's say you may drive for 5-10 years, right? You might not occur a single accident. That is with the most of the cases, right? But there are certainties that there might be some near misses might happen, right? And there is a chance that critical events might happen in a more regular manner compared to this, right? So what we can do in absence of these accidents, we can take the help of the other less severe events to basically understand the safety or the risk associated with the driving behavior. So, here to compare the risk, we need to define the baseline driving, right. Baseline driving is the one where driving is said to be the normal driving, without any deviation from the safety point of view. Okay. Now, so this study actually is done with the teen drivers. So, teen drivers are in US, as you know, sir also mentioned that driving license was usually given in the 16 to 19 years are the teen drivers, So, in this study actually we checked how teen drivers driving behaviors and the crash risk associated with different this type of teen drivers. So, here you can see there is a term called the secondary task, right. So, what secondary task is? Any task that driver is perform other than driving during the vehicle is move. So, if the driver is performing any other task other than driving, that can be considered as a secondary task. Okay. So, in this study, so many different secondary tasks were there, and it is first we try to see how this different category of tasks actually occur. So, we divided into, let us say, first one is cell phone. So, the cell phone use all different type of, so in the cell phone we can do actually different type of, So, cell phone can be used to simply talking, it can be used to browsing, it can be used to look up into some information. So, all these different actually tasks combined here in the cell phone use. Then some other, some people are vibe with music, so those we can consider. Then external distractions. External distraction might occur when they are looking into certain things, certain, it might be something going on outside, some advertisement board might be there, certain some construction might going on there, or something happen that actually draws the driver's attention to other event. Then many people eat food or drink while driving. So, those we are considering is in a different type of task. Interaction with the in-vehicle system. So, in-vehicle system is adjusting the stereo, adjusting the climate control, all those aspects will be there. Then personal hygiene, someone might fixing the hair, applying makeups, all those things will be considering here.
Not me.
So, all these things will come under this one. And then, talking to some other passengers, fellow passengers, interacting with someone, reaching and handing up to the objects, all those we categorize like this. Then we categorize in the all these secondary objects in a different manner. So, here what we did, so all these different tasks that we talked, they are to perform that task, it requires different complexity, right. So, let us say you are talking in phone and driving. So, still you have one focus in the road. So, it compared to that task, if you are, let us say you are browsing, if you are looking into map and driving, what will happen? You need to pay more attention to the phone, right. Or maybe you are reading something, you wanted to pull up some important information, that might require, that will be even more difficult to perform while driving. So, what will happen? We list down this class based on some previous literature, that some tasks which actually require less attention to perform, and they can basically perform the driving. This moderate tasks are the tasks which actually require maybe 1 or 2 glaze, and then they can drive. And complex tasks are the one where actually you are significantly diverting from the driving. You are not looking into the roadway rather than focusing on something other. Okay. So first we look into the prevalence of these different tasks into, so we consider the critical events from the data reduction, and we compared it with some baseline. Baseline means the normal driving. So you can see that no secondary task means only driving, crash and near crash on both safety critical events and baseline found to have the predominant one. Okay. It is followed by, you can see 15% of the crash and near crash occurred when cell phone is used, and 16% for the interacting with passengers. So you can see all these different secondary tasks associated with crash events and baseline events. Then similar thing we did is with the complexity. You can see the distribution here. Other thing we look along with the driving behavior is the impairments. So here impairments we consider actually 3 different type of impairments. So one impairment is the use of substance abuse, drugs or alcohol, you know. Along with that, the other impairment we used is the drowsy and fatigue, you know, if you are feeling sleepy, if you are feeling tired. Along with the one is the emotional one. So how emotional one is? Some people got angry. It happened in India, right? Many times people got frustrated in congestion. Someone might be with sad, you know, some conversation, something might emotional breakdown might happen. So emotional factors we also consider. So you may answer how we record. Basically, the camera that is mounted inside, they look into the visual, like visually if the people is angry or sad, that can be monitored, right? And that being used to as an impairment for this case. And the other one is to check basically how careless, or sometime people got relaxed, left one hand, driving it one hand, driving it both hand together. So these things are there. Now if we estimate the risk associated with this, we estimate this risk in terms of odds ratio. Okay. So you may ask what odds ratio is. Basically odds ratio, what it do is it compare risk with one baseline to a some level. You know, let's say if no one is using cell phone and versus someone is using cell phone, what is the odds, or how many times the risk might increase just because of using cell phone compared to someone who is not using their cell phone at all. Okay. So after doing this, what we found here is that use of cell phone actually increased the crash risk significantly. So 93% actually more risk is found to be associated with use of cell phone compared to the persons who are not associated with, who are not using cell phone. Similar exercise is done if you see the next variable dancing, which is not found to be significant. So there might not be, it is the risk might not be significant in that, statistically significant in that case. And the second important parameter is external distraction. If someone is looking outside while driving compared to one who is paying attention while driving, the risk is found to be enhanced by, increased by around 69 to 69%. Okay. Eating food is also found to be significantly associated, and other one is using the personal hygiene. That means applying makeups, fixing hairs, all those aspects are found to be a relatively dangerous task. So, if from there actually we can basically identify the driving behaviors or factors that are significantly associated or that are found to be more risky tasks performed by these teen drivers. Okay. In next analysis what we did, this task rather than the dividing into types, we divide them according to their nature, according to their complexity. So, here what we found that simply this simple task, that is the less complex task, are associated with, the risk associated with them are not significantly high. The risk is found to be indifferent. But if we look into the moderate and complex tasks, what we found that with the increase in complexity, if you see that with increase in complexity, the risk associated with this kind of task is also increasing. And one very important finding what we got is the emotional condition, whether someone is visibly sad or visibly angry, the risk is found to be 6 times higher compared to a normal driving. And this is actually, during this data we found, it is maybe somewhat greater to use of drugs and alcohols, which is also found to be very significant, around 5%, 5 times. One other thing actually, which is a counterintuitive result is, we found that this drowsy driving is not significant. So, one of the reason for this kind of reason might be because the drowsiness is measured with only camera. So, the degree of drowsiness, you might be feeling sleepy, you might be feeling really sleepy. So, that we cannot measure objectively. So, that might be one of the reason for that one. So, with this, so this kind of data, this study is done for US condition. So, can we do this kind of study in India? What is your thoughts?
Sir, India, one more thing is there, signal signal is disabled during working time,
Yes.
in working hours.
Yes.
That is one more reason.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, all those aspects actually nowadays if you see, we cannot do of course in that level, but nowadays in many, I think many studies are coming up with, because as now the sensors are getting affordable, we can actually put instrument into few vehicles and try to do this kind of study. And eventually the goal is, as the vehicles are coming up with, now most of the vehicles are coming up with inbuilt sensors, inbuilt cameras, many car companies are having now inside the vehicle the cameras are there, which if you are not responding for certain time, it will show some warning, So, if this kind of data we can get in future, rather than instrumenting this vehicle, from those sources if you are able to harness more data, then we can have a very comprehensive analysis about the driving behavior. So, with that thought, I think it is basically we can conclude this, and if you have any questions you can ask.
Sir, about a drowsy and fatigue, like it has no significance. Like
Yeah,
suppose the sensor or whatever camera may be
yeah,
not able to detect it, but it will look through generally.
yeah.
But it may be significance because
Yeah, Dravi is significant. That is what this is something which we found not actually following what it's supposed to be, you know.
yes,
So drowsy is significant. So this is where, because might be while doing the data rejection, the data rejection time it was not considered. That how to actually define the different degrees of drowsiness. So this is something actually means counterintuitive. What is there, it is not reflecting basically that.
yes, sir, I understood. Thank you.
Anyone from online?
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes. Krishna.
Hello.
Yeah,
Sir,
Krishna.
what are the sensors you have used to collect the data, sir?
So-
You know the sensor name, something like that.
Yeah, so here in this study, actually this is basically conducted by Virginia Tech. So they use actually different sensors. So they use a radar was there, and along with that radar sensor, they have different in-vehicle cameras are there, and because this data is collected for a very long time, data loggers are there. You need to log the data. That means you need to store, not only collect the data, but you need to store the data also on that hull. So data loggers are there, different sensors, cameras were there. So all those are included together.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is Tazim.
Yeah. Hi, Tazim.
Sir, regarding the behavioral aspect of the drivers, is it possible to quantify some of the behavioral aspects?
Could
Just
you
visualizing.
repeat the question again?
Sir, regarding the behavioral aspect of the drivers,
Okay.
is it possible for the researchers to quantify the behavioral aspect numerically? Or what could be the possible counter questions to that if we quantify the behavioral aspect in order to merge deeper into this traffic safety aspects or traffic flow aspect?
Behavioral.
Whatever
Actually, I'm not getting your question. Like behavior quantify in what? So risk associated with different behaviors. Are you saying about this or?
So what I mean to say, how the vehicles play on the road, except from the autonomous vehicles, the driver, the human factor,
Yes.
which they are driving their vehicles, is it possible to quantify that behavior?
Yes. So that is where actually this kind of instrumented vehicles might be plays a very important role, where he actually can look into because with the accident reports or the traditional data, it's very difficult to know what the driver is actually done, just because something might happen usually like 10 seconds prior to the accident. This collision happens. Before that collision happened, prior to that 10 seconds, something might have done. He might get distracted. He might have didn't pay enough attention. So something was happened during that time, right? So this kind of if sensors are there, or hopefully in future, yes.
Can I add up?
Yes.
So I have done a research regarding the psychological fear, and when the drivers are countering with the large size vehicles.
Okay.
So basically, I quantified the psychological behavior using gap acceptance. Would that be there be any counter questions to that? Is it? I think that research paper is almost nearly to get published, sir.
Okay. No, you have
Your
one.
view,
Yes. Yes.
sir, in your view, I mean to say, what are the outcomes of? Might there be any counter questions to that? How you quantify this? Basically,
so you have quantified with the kinematic data, right? So yes, some
Exactly.
of so some of the behaviors can be, let's say, whether you are aggressive or not, right? Someone may drive aggressive, someone may, so that can be measured if we, let's say, look into the only kinematic variable, right? So kinematic variable is what? Speed, acceleration and deceleration. So if you try to accelerate very often, try to do acceleration, deceleration in a very, like, very short span of time, that actually can quantify to that aggressiveness. But same can we know about the drowsiness, or because some of the aspects of driving behavior can be identified with this one, as like similarly you might have done about the impact of these larger vehicles. You have quantified with the gap. So
Gap acceptance.
with the gap acceptance. So some of the aspects can be quantified with other kinematic variable, but for some it will be very difficult to say whether that exact variable is playing the role, or some other aspects also might be there or not.
Okay, exactly, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right. So if it is not there, then we can stop the session here. Thank you.